Captain Lee Hyun-ki stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Seoul, watching the stars through the main view screen. The ship had been traveling through the Kepler 442 system for 3 weeks now, mapping asteroids and checking for useful minerals. It was routine work, the kind that paid the bills but rarely led to anything exciting. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on sensors," called out Science Officer Choi Min-ae from her station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Lee turn around. "What kind of strange?" Lee asked, walking over to look at her screen. "There's a massive object in the asteroid belt. It's big, sir. Really big. And it's not moving like the other rocks." Chief Engineer Park So-young looked up from her engineering console. "How big are we talking about?" Choi Min-ae ran the numbers again. About 10 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. But that's not the weird part. It's made of some kind of metal I've never seen before. The scanners can't figure out what it is. Tactical Officer Kim Tae-ho frowned. "Could it be a ship?" "That's what I'm thinking," Choi Min-ae said. "But if it is, it's bigger than anything we've ever built. Bigger than anything the Centauri colonies have built too." Lee felt his heart speed up. In 30 years of space exploration, he had never found anything like this. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen flickered and showed a distant object floating among the asteroids. Even from this distance, Lee could see it was not natural. The shape was too smooth, too purposeful. It looked like a giant needle made of dark crystal, catching and bending the light from the system's star in ways that hurt to look at. "Take us closer," Lee ordered, "but keep our distance. I want a full scan of that thing before we do anything else." The New Seoul changed course, moving carefully through the asteroid field. As they got closer, the object became even more impressive. The hull seemed to be made of a dark material that looked like metal and crystal at the same time. There were no obvious weapons or engines, but there were patterns carved into the surface that looked almost like writing. "Sir," Choi Min-ae said, her voice tight with excitement, "I'm detecting power signatures. Very faint, but they're there. This thing isn't completely dead." Park So-young checked her instruments. "Whatever's powering it, it's not fusion or antimatter. The energy patterns don't match anything in our databases." "How old do you think it is?" Lee asked. Choi Min-ae ran several scans. "Based on the cosmic radiation patterns and the way the metal has absorbed particles from space, I'd say at least 50,000 years. "Maybe more," Kim Tae-ho whistled softly. 50,000 years and it's still got power. That's impossible." "Apparently not," Park So-young said. "Whatever built this thing had technology way beyond ours." Lee stared at the alien ship on the screen. His mind raced with possibilities. This could be the discovery of a lifetime. First contact with an alien civilization, even if they were long gone. The technology alone could change everything for humanity. But there were rules about this kind of thing. Earth Command had strict protocols for alien contact. He was supposed to report the find immediately and wait for orders. "Sir, I'm picking up a signal," Communications Officer Nam Soo-jin said from her station. "It's very weak, but it's definitely artificial. And it's coming from the ship." "What kind of signal?" "I don't know. It's not radio or any kind of electromagnetic transmission we use. It's something else entirely. But sir, there's something odd about it. The frequency keeps changing, like it's trying to find something." Lee made his decision. "Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've found what appears to be an alien vessel and are investigating. Include all our scan data." "Sir," Kim Tae-ho said carefully, "regulations say we should wait for orders before approaching an unknown alien craft." "Regulations were written by people who never found an alien ship," Lee replied. "This could be the most important discovery in human history. We're not going to sit here and wait 3 months for Earth to make up their minds." He turned to his crew. "I want a full sensor sweep. Everything we can learn about this ship without getting too close. Park, prepare a shuttle. If this thing is safe, we're going aboard." "Aye, sir," Park So-young said, though she looked nervous. For the next 6 hours, the New Seoul circled the alien vessel at a safe distance. The more they learned, the more mysterious it became. The ship showed no signs of damage despite floating in space for thousands of years. There were no meteor impacts, no wear from cosmic radiation, nothing that should have happened to any normal spacecraft. "It's like it's protected by something," Choi Min-ae reported. "Some kind of field that deflects matter and energy. I can barely get our scanners through it." "Any signs of life?" Lee asked. "None that I can detect. But sir, there are huge spaces inside this thing. Chambers the size of city blocks, and the architecture doesn't make sense. Some of the internal spaces are bigger than the external dimensions should allow. Park So-young looked up from her console. That's impossible. So was faster than light travel until we figured it out, Lee said. What about the signal Nam picked up? Nam Soo-jin had been working on the strange transmission for hours. It's definitely a signal, sir. But it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's not just electromagnetic. It's doing something to space itself. And Captain, I think it's getting stronger. As if responding to her words, the lights on the bridge flickered. Several consoles sparked briefly. What was that? Kim Tae-ho demanded. The signal just spiked, Nam Soo-jin said, her face pale. Whatever that ship is doing, it's affecting our systems. Lee looked at the alien vessel on the screen. As he watched, patterns of light began to move across its hull. They pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. Sir, Choi Min-ae said, her voice barely a whisper. I think it knows we're here. The patterns of light grew brighter. More appeared, spreading across the ship's surface like fire. The alien vessel began to change. Parts of its hull shifted and moved, opening like flower petals. Bright light spilled out from inside. It's powering up, Park So-young said. Energy readings are climbing fast. Should we move back? Kim Tae-ho asked, his hand hovering over the weapons controls. Lee studied the ship. Despite all the activity, his instincts told him they weren't in danger. The movement seemed purposeful but not threatening, like someone opening their door to welcome visitors. No, he said. I think it's trying to communicate. The signal Nam Soo-jin had been tracking suddenly became clear. It wasn't random noise anymore. It was a pattern repeating over and over, and somehow Lee found he could almost understand it. It's an invitation, Nam Soo-jin said, amazement in her voice. I don't know how, but I can feel what it means. It wants us to come aboard. Could be a trap, Kim Tae-ho warned. Could be, Lee agreed. But if it wanted to destroy us, it could have done it already. That ship is older and more advanced than anything we can imagine. If it meant us harm, we'd already be dead. He stood up and straightened his uniform. Park, get that shuttle ready. We're going over there. Sir, Earth Command hasn't responded to our message yet, Kim Tae-ho pointed out. Then we'll have a lot to tell them when they do, Lee said. Choi, Park, Kim, you're with me. Nam, keep monitoring that signal. If anything goes wrong, get us out of here. What about first contact protocols? Choi Min-ae asked. Lee smiled grimly. I don't think the people who wrote those protocols ever imagined this. We're making new rules now. An hour later, the shuttle Busan approached the alien ship. Up close, it was even more impressive. The hull stretched away in all directions, covered in those strange patterns that seemed to move and shift when you weren't looking directly at them. There, Park So-young said, pointing to an opening that had appeared in the ship's side. That looks like a docking bay. The opening was perfectly sized for their shuttle, as if the alien ship had measured it and adjusted accordingly. As they flew inside, lights came on automatically, revealing a chamber that looked like it was designed for exactly this purpose. Artificial gravity is one Earth standard, Kim Tae-ho reported. Atmosphere is breathable. Temperature is comfortable. It's like they knew we were coming. The shuttle touched down gently on a landing pad that seemed to be made of the same crystal metal as the rest of the ship. Outside the viewports, they could see corridors leading deeper into the vessel. Well, Lee said, checking his sidearm one more time. Let's go meet our hosts. They put on their environmental suits just in case, though the readings showed the atmosphere was safe. The shuttle's door opened with a soft hiss. The first thing Lee noticed was the size of everything. The corridors were built for beings much taller than humans. The ceiling disappeared into shadows overhead. The walls were covered in more of those shifting patterns, and they seemed to react to the presence of the humans, brightening as they passed. This way, Park So-young said, checking her scanner. I'm reading a large chamber about 100 meters ahead, and there's definitely something active there. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch on forever. The architecture was beautiful in an alien way, all flowing curves and impossible angles. Everything felt ancient but perfectly maintained. The chamber they found was enormous. The ceiling was so high it might as well have been a sky. In the center of the room stood a pillar of the same crystal metal, but this one was different. It pulsed with internal light and hummed with power, STY. Captain Lee Hyun-ki stood in the alien chamber for several minutes after the keeper disappeared, trying to process what had just happened. His crew looked just as stunned as he felt. Sir, Communications Officer Nam Soo-jin's voice crackled through their radios from the shuttle. I'm getting multiple messages from Earth Command. They want an immediate report, Lee sighed. Tell them we're investigating and we'll report back soon. Don't mention the Keeper yet. Captain, Choi Min-ae said, studying her scanner. We should explore more of this ship before we make any decisions. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Lee nodded. Agreed, let's split up and cover more ground. Stay in radio contact and don't go anywhere alone. They spent the next several hours mapping the alien vessel. What they found defied everything they knew about physics and engineering. Corridors that seemed to stretch for kilometers suddenly ended in rooms that were far too large to fit in the space available. Some chambers appeared to exist in multiple locations at once. Park So-young found an engineering section that made no sense to her trained eye. Captain, you need to see this, she called over the radio. I'm looking at what I think are power systems, but they're not generating energy. They're pulling it from somewhere else entirely. Somewhere else like where? Lee asked, making his way to her location. I don't know. The readings suggest they're drawing power from the fabric of space itself. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I'd say it was impossible. Kim Tae-ho had found what looked like a weapons array, though the weapons themselves were unlike anything in human arsenals. These aren't designed to destroy ships or planets, he reported. Based on the energy patterns, I think they're meant to affect something much larger. Maybe entire star systems. Meanwhile, Choi Min-ae made the most disturbing discovery. In a chamber deep within the ship, she found evidence of previous visitors. Captain, I'm reading traces of organic material here. Multiple different types. I think other species have been aboard this ship. Recently? Lee asked. No, sir. Some of these traces are thousands of years old. But Captain, there are weapons here too, and they're not human or architect. I think some of the aliens who took the trials fought each other. Lee felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying the trials turned them against each other? I don't know. But something bad happened here. As they continued exploring, the ship seemed to respond to their presence. Lights would turn on ahead of them, guiding them to new areas. Doors would open automatically. It was as if the vessel was alive and wanted them to see everything. After 6 hours of exploration, they regrouped in the main chamber. Lee looked at his exhausted crew and made a decision. We're going back to the New Sol. We need time to think about this, and Earth Command is probably having a fit by now. But as they headed back to their shuttle, the Keeper appeared again. Leaving so soon, Captain? The alien figure asked. I had hoped you would be more curious about your potential. We need to report to our government, Lee explained. This decision is too big for us to make alone. The Keeper tilted its head. Your caution is wise, but you should know that other species have tried to involve their entire civilizations in this choice. It did not end well for them. What do you mean? Fear, Captain. When faced with power beyond their comprehension, most species become afraid. They fight over who should take the trials. They divide into factions. Some try to destroy the ship to prevent their enemies from gaining its power. The Keeper gestured, and images filled the air around them. They showed alien cities in chaos, fleets of warships destroying each other, entire worlds burning. The Kavek were a proud warrior species. The Keeper continued. When they found one of our ships, they brought their entire military fleet. Each faction demanded the right to take the trials. In the end, they destroyed themselves before the trials could even begin. What happened to their ship? Park So-young asked. It left to find another species. The Kavik proved themselves unworthy through their actions, not their failures. Lee studied the images of destruction. So you're saying we shouldn't tell Earth about this? I am saying that the choice must be made by those pure of heart, not by those hungry for power. Your political leaders, your military commanders, they would see only the weapon and not the responsibility that comes with it. Choi Min-ae frowned. But we can't make this decision for all of humanity. Can't you? The Keeper asked. You are humanity's representatives here. You have seen what others have not. You understand the stakes. We're just explorers, Kim Tae-ho protested. We're not qualified to make decisions about the fate of our species. The Keeper seemed amused. And yet the ship chose you. Not your admirals or presidents, but you four. Perhaps that should tell you something. Lee felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders again. If we decide to take the trials, what exactly would we be facing? Tests designed to reveal your true nature, the Keeper replied. Not your species' nature, but yours personally. The trials judge individuals, not civilizations. How many of us would need to take them? Park So-young asked. Traditionally, 5 candidates are chosen. The ship will select them based on criteria known only to the architects. But Captain, You should understand that the trials will change you. Even success comes with a price. What kind of price? The Keeper's form seemed to grow more solid, more real. Power changes those who wield it. You will see reality differently. You will understand things that your current minds cannot grasp. Some find this transformation liberating. Others find it terrifying. And if we fail the trials, then you die and your species is marked as unworthy. No other trial ship will ever approach your worlds. The bluntness of the statement hit them like a physical blow. You're asking us to risk not just our lives, but the future of our entire species, Lee said. I am asking you to take responsibility for that future, the Keeper corrected. The darkness I showed you earlier is real, Captain. It has already consumed 3 galaxies. This one is next. Without a guardian species to stand against it, all life here will end. How do you know humanity is capable of stopping something like that? Choi Min-ae asked. I don't, the Keeper admitted. But the ship believes you have potential. Your species shows qualities that others have lacked. What qualities? Curiosity over conquest. Cooperation over domination. You came here with weapons, but you have not threatened me. You could have tried to take the ship by force, but you choose to talk instead. These are promising signs. Lee looked at his crew. They all looked as overwhelmed as he felt. We need time to think, he said finally. Of course. But while you think, consider this. The last species to take the trials was 60,000 years ago. They succeeded and became guardians of their galaxy. But even they could not stop the darkness forever. It grew stronger, learned from its defeats. Now it is more powerful than ever. What happened to those guardians? The Keeper's expression grew sad. They fought bravely. They held the darkness back for millennia, but in the end they were overwhelmed. As they died, they sent their knowledge to us, warning of what was coming. So even if we succeed, we might fail anyway. Success is not guaranteed, Captain, but failure to try guarantees destruction. The alien figure began to fade again. Return to your ship. Discuss this with your crew. But remember, your communications with Earth are being monitored by the ship. Choose your words carefully. With that, the Keeper vanished, leaving them alone in the vast chamber. They made their way back to the shuttle in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The weight of the decision ahead of them was almost unbearable. Back aboard the New Soul, Lee called his senior staff together in the briefing room. He looked around the table at faces he had worked with for years, people he trusted with his life. I'm going to tell you something that sounds impossible, he began, but I need you to hear me out. He told them everything, leaving out no detail. The Keeper, the trials, the coming darkness, the choice they faced. As he spoke, he watched their expressions change from disbelief to amazement to fear. Sir, Nam Soo-jin said when he finished, this is beyond anything we're equipped to handle. We need to contact Earth immediately. The Keeper warned against that, Lee replied. It said that when other species involved their governments, it led to chaos and war. But we can't make this decision alone. Engineering Chief Yoon Ji-hai protested. This affects everyone on Earth, does it? Lee asked. If we fail the trials, Earth dies anyway when this darkness arrives. If we succeed, Earth is protected regardless of whether they knew about it or not. Medical Officer Dr. Kang Dong-min leaned forward. Captain, you're talking about 5 people risking their lives for the entire human race. That's not a decision we have the right to make, isn't it? Lee countered. We're explorers. We take risks every day to expand human knowledge and protect human interests. How is this different? Because this time the stakes are literally everything, Nam Soo-jin said. Lee stood up and walked to the viewport, looking out at the alien ship floating in the asteroid field. I keep thinking about something the Keeper said. The ship chose us, not Earth's leaders or military commanders. Maybe there's a reason for that. What kind of reason? Yoon Ji-hai asked. Maybe the trials aren't about power or politics. Maybe they're about character. About the kind of people we are. The Earth Defense Force Battle Group arrived exactly 18 hours later, led by Admiral Chen Wei aboard the heavy cruiser Beijing. Captain Lee watched through the view screen as 12 warships took position around the alien vessel, their weapons trained on its crystalline hull. Captain Lee? Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the communication system. You are ordered to return to Earth immediately for debriefing. The alien vessel is now under military jurisdiction. Lee looked at his crew gathered on the bridge. They all knew what this meant. Once the military took over, any chance of attempting the trials on their own terms would be lost. Admiral, Lee replied carefully, I respectfully request permission to remain as an advisor. My crew has the most experience with the alien technology. Request denied. You've done enough damage already by making unauthorized contact. Prepare for immediate departure. Before Lee could respond, every screen on every ship in the fleet suddenly activated. The image of the Keeper appeared on all of them simultaneously. Greetings, people of Earth, the alien figure said. I am disappointed by your response to this opportunity. Admiral Chen's voice cut across all channels. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. Identify yourself and state your intentions. The Keeper seemed to smile. I am the Keeper of Trials, guardian of this vessel. As for my intentions, I had hoped to offer your species a great gift. Instead, I see you have chosen the path of suspicion and force. We are prepared to negotiate, the Admiral said. But first, you will power down your vessel and submit to inspection. I think not, the Keeper replied. Your warships are already targeting my hull. You speak of negotiation while preparing for war. This is not the behavior of a worthy species. Lee felt panic rising in his chest. This was exactly what the Keeper had warned about. Admiral, please, you don't understand what you're dealing with here. Captain Lee, you are out of line. Maintain radio silence, but the Keeper had heard. Captain Lee speaks truth, Admiral. Your approach shows fear rather than wisdom. You see only a weapon to be captured, not a responsibility to be accepted. We see a potential threat to Earth, Admiral Chen replied. Our duty is to protect our people. And who will protect them from the darkness that comes? The Keeper asked. Your weapons cannot fight what approaches. Only those who pass the trials can hope to stand against it. Admiral Chen's patience was clearly wearing thin. We're not interested in your trials. We want to examine your technology and determine if you pose a threat to human space. The Keeper's expression grew sad. And there it is. The hunger for power that has doomed so many species before you. Suddenly the alien ship began to move, not slowly, like a normal spacecraft, but instantly, as if it simply decided to be somewhere else. In the blink of an eye, it was positioned between the Earth fleet and the New Sol. No weapons were fired, the Keeper announced. No threats were carried out. Yet you brought ships of war to a meeting of minds. This troubles me greatly. Admiral Chen was shouting orders to his fleet. All ships maintain targeting solutions. Do not fire unless fired upon. Lee made a desperate decision. Admiral, I'm requesting permission to return to the alien ship. Let me try to defuse this situation. Absolutely not. You've caused enough problems already. But the Keeper had been listening. Captain Lee, your offer is noted. But I fear it may be too late for diplomacy. The alien ship began to change. Its hull sections moved and shifted, revealing weapon arrays that made the Earth fleet's armaments look like toys. But instead of targeting the human ships, the weapons pointed outward into space. What are you doing? Admiral Chen demanded. Preparing to leave, the Keeper replied. Your species has shown its true nature. You respond to the unknown with fear and violence. This does not bode well for the trials. Lee couldn't let this happen. Keeper, please. Not all of us are like this. Give us another chance. The Keeper paused, studying Lee's image on the screen. You would defy your own people to attempt the trials? Lee looked around at his crew. He saw his own determination reflected in their faces. If that's what it takes to save humanity, yes. Admiral Chen's voice cut across the channel. Captain Lee, you are relieved of command. Security, place him under arrest. But before anyone could move, the Keeper spoke again. Interesting. Captain Lee, do you speak for your crew as well? Park So-young stepped forward. He does. We all volunteer, Choi Min-ae added. Kim Tae-ho nodded grimly. Someone has to do it. Even Nam Soo-jin, who had been the most hesitant, spoke up. Count me in too. The Keeper was quiet for a long moment. 5 volunteers willing to risk everything for their species. This is unexpected. Admiral Chen was practically screaming now. I'm ordering the entire crew of the New Sol to surrender immediately. Any resistance will be considered mutiny. The Keeper made its decision. Captain Lee, bring your volunteers to my ship. The trials will begin immediately. You can't be serious, Admiral Chen said. I won't allow this. You have no power here, Admiral, the Keeper replied. The trials are sacred. They cannot be stopped by force or politics. The alien ship extended what looked like a bridge of solid light toward the New Sol. It touched the hull near the shuttle bay. Come, the Keeper said. Time grows short. Lee looked at his crew one more time. Anyone who wants to stay behind can. No one will think less of you. No one moved toward the exit. All right then, Lee said. Let's go save humanity. They ran through the corridors of the New Sol as Admiral Chen's voice echoed from every speaker, ordering them to stop. Security teams were already moving to intercept them, but the ship's corridors seemed to shift and change, guiding them away from their pursuers. The alien ship is affecting our internal systems, Park So-young reported as they ran. It's helping us get to the shuttle bay. They reached the bay to find the bridge of light waiting for them. It looked solid enough, but Lee had his doubts about walking across empty space on what appeared to be hardened light. "I'll go first," he said, stepping onto the bridge. It held his weight easily. The surface felt like metal, warm and solid under his feet. One by one, his crew followed him across the gap between ships. Behind them, they could hear security teams breaking down the shuttle bay doors. Admiral Chen's angry voice followed them across the bridge of light. "Captain Lee, I'm ordering you to stop. What you're doing could start a war." Lee paused at the entrance to the alien ship and looked back. Admiral, with respect, were trying to prevent one. Then they were inside the alien vessel and the bridge of light dissolved behind them. The keeper was waiting for them in the main chamber. "Welcome back, Captain. I must say your dedication is impressive." "What happens now?" Lee asked. "Now you face the trials," the keeper replied. "But first you must understand what you are truly volunteering for." The chamber around them changed, showing images of the cosmos. Galaxies spun slowly in the void, beautiful and serene. The architects were the first species to achieve transcendence, the keeper explained. They evolved beyond physical form, becoming beings of pure consciousness. But in their wisdom they saw a danger approaching. The images shifted, showing something dark and terrible moving between the galaxies. Where it passed, stars went out and entire civilizations vanished. They called it the hunger of minds, the keeper continued, a force that devours consciousness itself, growing stronger with each mind it consumes. The architects realized that transcendence without wisdom leads to this fate. So they created the trials. Choi Min-ae said, "Yes, to find species capable of wielding ultimate power without being corrupted by it. The trials test not your strength or intelligence, but your character. Your willingness to sacrifice for others. Your ability to resist temptation." Park So-young frowned. "And if we pass? You become guardians. Your consciousness expands to encompass entire star systems. You gain the power to reshape reality itself, but you also accept the responsibility to protect all life from the hunger. And if we fail?" Kim Tae-ho asked. "You die," the keeper said simply. "And your species is marked as unworthy. When the hunger comes, you will face it alone." Lee felt the weight of that responsibility. "How long do we have before this hunger arrives?" "In your terms of time, perhaps 50 of your years. Maybe less. It grows stronger and faster with each galaxy it consumes." "Then we don't have a choice," Lee said. "We have to try." The keeper nodded. "Very well. The ship will now select your 5 candidates based on its analysis of your characters." The chamber filled with light, scanning each of them. Lee felt something touch his mind, examining his thoughts and memories. It was invasive but not unpleasant, like having someone look through his entire life with gentle, understanding eyes. When the light faded, the keeper spoke. "The ship has made its choices. Captain Lee Hyun-ki, you will face the trial of leadership. Engineer Park So-young, you will take the trial of creation. Tactical Officer Kim Tae-ho, you will undergo the trial of protection. Science Officer Choi Min-ae, you will attempt the trial of knowledge," Lee counted. That was only 4. "What about Nam Soo-jin?" The keeper turned to the communications officer. "She will face the most difficult trial of all. The trial of connection. It tests one's ability to bridge different forms of consciousness, to find understanding where none exists." Nam Soo-jin looked terrified. "Why me? I'm just a communications officer." "The ship sees." Captain Lee stepped through the golden doorway and found himself standing on the bridge of a starship he didn't recognize. The design was human, but more advanced than anything currently in the fleet. Through the view screen he could see a solar system under attack. Alien ships, sleek and predatory, were systematically destroying everything in their path. Colonies burned on distant planets. Civilian transports exploded in silent flashes. Millions were dying as he watched. "Captain," an officer at the tactical station called out, "the evacuation fleet is trapped. The enemy has them surrounded." Lee looked around the bridge and realized he knew these people. They were his crew from the New Sol, but older, wearing uniforms he'd never seen before. Commander Park So-young stood at the engineering station, her hair now streaked with gray. Sir, she said, we can break through their lines and rescue the civilians, but it would mean sacrificing the military fleet. Or we can support the military and let the civilians die, but preserve our forces for the larger war. Lee felt the weight of command crushing down on him. This wasn't just a simulation. Somehow this felt completely real. The pain on his crew's faces was genuine. The screams coming over the communication channels were real. How many civilians? He asked. 2 million, Choi Minei reported from the science station. Mostly families. Women, children, elderly, and the military fleet? 50,000 trained soldiers and officers. Our best hope of stopping this invasion. Lee studied the tactical display. The enemy had positioned themselves perfectly. He could save one group or the other, but not both. There has to be another way, he said. Sir, Kim Tae-ho said from Tactical, I've run every simulation. There's no tactical solution that saves both groups. The screams from the civilian ships grew louder. Children crying for their parents. Adults begging for help that might never come. Lee closed his eyes and thought about leadership. What did it really mean to command? Was it about making the hard choices that others couldn't? Or was it about refusing to accept that some choices had to be made? All ships, he announced over the fleet communication channel. This is Captain Lee. I'm ordering the civilian evacuation fleet to scatter. Every ship for itself. Break formation and run for hyperspace. Sir, Park So-young protested. Without escort, most of them won't make it. And all ships in the military fleet, Lee continued, abandon your defensive positions. Each ship is to escort as many civilian vessels as possible. Protect them with your lives. The tactical officer on the enemy side had not expected this. They had planned for either a military engagement or a civilian rescue, but not both happening simultaneously in complete chaos. Captain, Kim Tae-ho said, this plan sacrifices tactical advantage. We're giving up any chance of an organized defense. Sometimes the best leadership means giving up control, Lee replied. Trust our people to do the right thing when it matters. What followed was not a battle in any traditional sense. It was a desperate scramble as military ships threw themselves between civilian vessels and enemy fire. Some ships made it to hyperspace. Others were destroyed while covering the retreat of others. But something unexpected happened. The scattered, chaotic retreat confused the enemy. They had expected either a military formation to fight or a civilian convoy to chase. Instead, they faced hundreds of individual ships making unpredictable decisions. More ships escaped than any tactical computer had predicted possible. As the last civilian ship jumped to hyperspace, Lee found himself back in the chamber with the Keeper. Interesting, the alien figure said. Most candidates try to find the perfect tactical solution. You chose to trust your people instead of your plans. Did I pass? Lee asked. The trial continues, the Keeper replied. True leadership is tested not just in moments of crisis, but in moments of temptation. The scene around Lee changed again. Now he stood in a great hall filled with representatives from dozens of alien species. They were all bowing before him, offering tribute and pledging loyalty. Lord Lee, one of them said, your wisdom has brought peace to the galaxy. We offer our worlds as your domain to rule as you see fit. Lee looked down at himself and saw that he was wearing robes of power, ornate and magnificent. In his hands was a scepter that hummed with energy. He could feel the raw power flowing through it, enough to reshape entire star systems. You have earned this, a voice whispered in his mind. You saved those civilians. You proved your worth. Take what is rightfully yours. The temptation was overwhelming. He could feel the potential within the scepter. He could end war, impose peace, create a perfect order across the galaxy. All he had to do was accept the worship of these species and take control. They need a strong leader, the voice continued. Someone to make the hard decisions. Someone to guide them. Lee looked at the bowing aliens and felt sick. This wasn't leadership. This was domination. Stand up, he told them. All of you, stand up. The aliens looked confused but obeyed. Lee threw the scepter away. It clattered across the floor and disappeared. I'm not your lord. I'm not anyone's lord. Leadership isn't about ruling people. It's about serving them. The hall dissolved around him and he was back with the Keeper. You rejected ultimate power, the alien observed. Why? Because power corrupts, Lee said. The moment I accepted their worship, I would have stopped being the person who deserved to lead them. The Keeper nodded approvingly. You understand the first truth of guardianship. Power must be held in service to others, not for personal gain. You have passed the trial of leadership. Lee felt a change within himself. His consciousness expanded slightly, allowing him to perceive things he had never noticed before. The quantum structure of reality, the flow of energy through space-time, the delicate connections between all living things. The others are still being tested, the keeper said. Would you like to observe? Windows opened in the air around them, showing his crew in their own trials. Park So-young was facing a different kind of test. She stood before a massive engineering problem, a dying star about to go supernova, threatening to destroy an entire system filled with inhabited worlds. You have the knowledge to save them, a voice told her. But the solution requires merging your consciousness with the star itself. You will become the star, keeping it stable through your will alone. You will save billions of lives, but you will no longer be human. Lee watched as Park struggled with the choice. She could save the worlds, but only by sacrificing her individual existence. In the end, she made the same choice Lee would have expected. She began the process of merging with the star, but at the last moment she found a different solution. Instead of becoming the star, she created a network of artificial intelligences to share the burden. No single consciousness had to make the sacrifice, because many working together could accomplish what one alone could not. She passed her trial by choosing cooperation over martyrdom. Kim Taeho faced a scenario where he had to choose between protecting his own people and protecting strangers. An enemy force threatened both Earth and an alien world. He had enough resources to save one, but not both. Instead of choosing, he divided his forces and fought a battle on two fronts simultaneously. Logic said he would fail at both objectives, but Kim understood that some battles had to be fought even when victory was impossible, because the act of fighting was more important than the outcome. His refusal to abandon anyone, even strangers, saved both worlds through sheer determination and the moral power of his example. Choi Min-ae faced the trial of knowledge in a vast library that contained all the secrets of the universe. She could learn anything she wanted: how to travel faster than light, how to create matter from energy, how to transcend death itself. But she discovered that gaining knowledge came with a price. Each secret she learned made her more distant from other people. The more she knew, the less she could relate to those who knew less. She could become the smartest being in the galaxy, but she would lose her humanity in the process. Min-ae chose to learn only what she needed to help others, refusing the ultimate knowledge that would have isolated her from the people she wanted to serve. Finally, Lee watched Nam Soo-jin face the trial of connection. She found herself in a place between dimensions, where the consciousness of every living being in the galaxy was represented as points of light. She could see the connections between them all, threads of thought and emotion that linked every mind. But she also saw the darkness between them, the isolation and fear that kept beings apart. You can become the bridge, a voice told her. Connect every mind in the galaxy. End loneliness forever. Bring perfect understanding to all beings. But Nam Soo-jin realized that forced connection was just another form of domination. Individual consciousness was precious precisely because it was separate. Unity had to be chosen, not imposed. Instead of connecting all minds, she chose to strengthen the natural connections that already existed. She became a facilitator rather than a controller, helping beings understand each other without forcing them to merge. As the last trial ended, all 5 humans found themselves back in the main chamber. They looked different somehow. Not physically, but there was a depth to their eyes that hadn't been there before. You have all passed, the keeper announced. But now comes the true test. The chamber around them changed, showing them the reality of the approaching. Lee and his crew emerged from the trial chambers changed. They could feel the difference immediately. Their minds were connected not just to each other but to the alien ship itself. They could sense its vast consciousness, ancient and patient, like a sleeping giant that had finally found worthy partners. The connection feels strange, Nam Soo-jin said, touching her forehead. I can hear your thoughts, but they're still your thoughts, not mine. It's like being part of a team, but more so, Park So-young added. I can feel the ship's systems as if they were extensions of my own body. The keeper watched them adjust to their new abilities with satisfaction. This is what the architects hoped for but never achieved. True partnership between organic and artificial consciousness. Captain Lee tested his expanded awareness. He could sense every system on the alien ship. feel the flow of energy through its crystalline structures, even perceive the quantum fluctuations that powered it. But more importantly, he could feel his crew's emotions and thoughts, their fears and hopes all intertwined. This is how we're supposed to face the hunger, he realized, not as individuals but as a connected group that's still made up of individuals. Exactly, the Keeper confirmed. Isolation makes consciousness vulnerable to the hunger, but forced unity creates something the hunger can easily consume. You have found the balance. Kim Tae-ho was studying the tactical displays that now appeared directly in his mind. I can see the hunger's approach pattern. It's not random. It's learning, adapting to each galaxy's defenses, which is why the traditional Guardian approach failed, Choi Min-ai said, accessing vast databases of information through her neural link to the ship. Each galaxy's Guardians fought the same way. The hunger learned to counter their methods. But if we can create a network of different species, each with their own approach, Medli began, the hunger won't be able to adapt to all of them, Nam Soo-jin finished. Diversity becomes our strength. The ship around them began to change. Sections that had been dormant for millennia came online. Corridors reshaped themselves to accommodate human needs. The vessel was adapting to its new partners. The ship wants to go to Earth, Park So-young reported. Her consciousness now merged with the engineering systems. It needs to establish a connection with our homeworld. Admiral Chen isn't going to like that, Kim Tae-ho pointed out. Lee smiled grimly. Then we'd better be persuasive. They returned to the main chamber where communications with the Earth fleet were still active. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen, his expression furious. Captain Lee, I'm ordering you to surrender immediately. You've been aboard that alien ship for 6 hours. We don't know what they've done to you. They've given us the tools to save humanity, Lee replied calmly. Admiral, I need you to listen very carefully. The threat we're facing is bigger than any military force can handle. The only threat I see is you collaborating with hostile aliens. Lee felt his enhanced consciousness reach out, touching the ship's communication systems. Suddenly, Admiral Chen and every person in the Earth fleet could see what Lee had seen. The images of the approaching hunger, the destroyed galaxies, the cosmic threat that made their current conflicts seem petty. What the hell is that? Admiral Chen whispered. The reason the trials exist, Lee explained. The reason we had to make this choice. Admiral, our entire galaxy has maybe 50 years before that thing arrives. When it does, every ship in your fleet, every weapon in Earth's arsenal, every military strategy ever devised will be useless against it. The bridge of Admiral Chen's ship had gone silent. Everyone was staring at the images of cosmic destruction. How do we fight something like that? The Admiral asked. By evolving, Park So-young said, her voice carrying new harmonics from her connection to the ship. By becoming more than we were, but without losing what makes us human. Nam Soo-jin stepped forward. Admiral, I know this is hard to accept, but we're still the same people you've known for years. We're just more now. Admiral Chen studied their faces on the screen. You look different. Your eyes? We can see more now, Choi Min-ae explained. We can perceive things that were always there but invisible to unenhanced human senses. But we're still us. Lee made a decision. Admiral, I'm going to do something that will either convince you we're still human or convince you we're completely lost. He opened a direct neural link between himself and Admiral Chen, letting the Admiral feel his thoughts and emotions directly. For a moment, Admiral Chen gasped as he experienced Lee's memories of the trials. He felt the weight of command that Lee carried, the love for his crew, the desperate hope that they had found a way to save everyone. You're still you, the Admiral said quietly, but you're carrying something enormous. We all are, Lee replied. The question is whether Earth will help us carry it or whether we'll have to do this alone. Admiral Chen was quiet for a long moment. What do you need from us? Time, Lee said. Space to work. And eventually volunteers for the trials and more trials. The network has to grow, Nam Soo-jin explained. We need other species to join us. And we need more humans too. 5 people, even enhanced ones, can't protect an entire galaxy. How many? Admiral Chen asked. Park So-young consulted the ship's databases. According to the architect records, a network of at least 1,000 enhanced beings from dozens of different species might be enough to create a defense the hunger can't adapt to. 1,000 volunteers willing to risk death in alien trials, Admiral Chen said slowly. The politicians are going to hate this. Then we don't ask the politicians, Kim Tae-ho said. We ask people directly. Individual choice, not government mandate. Lee nodded. The trials judge character, not authority. We need volunteers who understand what they're sacrificing and why. Over the next several hours, they explained everything to Admiral Chen and his fleet commanders. The response was mixed. Some officers were horrified by the alien nature of the trials. Others were fascinated by the potential for human enhancement. Most were simply overwhelmed by the scale of the threat they faced. I need to report this to Earth Command, Admiral Chen finally said. They'll want to study your ship, interview you extensively, probably try to reverse engineer the technology. They can try, the Keeper interjected, appearing on the screens again. But the ship's technology cannot be copied or stolen. It only responds to those who have passed the trials. And if Earth Command orders us to surrender the ship? Admiral Chen asked. Lee felt the ship's consciousness touch his mind, offering him access to systems that could disable the entire Earth fleet in seconds. But he pushed the temptation away. Then we'll find another way, he said. But Admiral, I hope you'll help us convince them that cooperation is better than confrontation. Admiral Chen sighed. I'll try. But Lee, you need to understand that what you've become scares people. Enhanced humans with alien technology and the power to reshape reality? That's the stuff of nightmares for most politicians. Then we'll have to prove that we're still worthy of trust, Nam Soo-jin said. Over the following weeks, as news of the alien contact spread across Earth, humanity struggled with the implications. Some groups demanded that the enhanced humans be isolated or even eliminated as a threat. Others wanted to volunteer for the trials immediately. Religious leaders debated whether the enhancement was divine, blessing, or demonic corruption. Lee and his crew found themselves in the strange position of being humanity's representatives to the galaxy while simultaneously being viewed with suspicion by their own species. But gradually, volunteers began to come forward. Scientists who wanted to help develop defenses against the hunger, military officers who understood the scope of the threat, ordinary people who simply couldn't bear the thought of their children growing up in a galaxy under siege. The alien ship moved to a position in Earth's outer system, far enough away to avoid panic, but close enough to facilitate the trials. Each group of volunteers was carefully screened, not for qualifications or political reliability, but for the character traits the Keeper had identified as necessary for survival. Park. So-young worked with Earth's engineers to begin designing new ship technologies based on principles learned from the alien vessel. Kim Tae-ho trained with military strategists to develop new tactical doctrines for fighting threats beyond conventional warfare. Choi Min-ae collaborated with scientists to expand humanity's understanding of physics and consciousness. Nam Soo-jin had perhaps the most important job. She used her enhanced communication abilities to reach out to other species in the galaxy, searching for potential allies in the growing network. The first contact came from an unexpected source, a message from the Outer Rim, where a species called the Rilani had been fighting the Hunger's advanced scouts for decades. We heard your call, the message said. We have been alone for so long. Can the trials truly create partnership instead of domination? Lee smiled as he composed the reply. Come and see for yourself. The Rilani arrived 3 months later, a cautious delegation in ships that looked like living crystals. They were a species of pure thought that had learned to inhabit crystal matrices, and their approach to consciousness was completely different from humanity's. But when they took the trials, they faced the same fundamental challenges: leadership without domination, creation without destruction, protection without